Hello. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be showing some first reactions to agent mode. I've done a little bit of testing with it on some simple data sets, but I was thinking about it and I recently built a cash flow dashboard using the QuickBooks reports that you could just download or export straight from QuickBooks into your Excel file. So here they are. And in this instance, I'm just using the Craig's Design and Landscaping Sample Company. And here is the finalized and completed dashboard that I created. So we can expand all of our different dates. For agent mode, we do have to be in the web browser version of Excel, but hopefully that will not be the case for very long. But yeah, so this is a dashboard that I created to help project cash flow. And I was thinking to myself, if I input the same data into a new Excel, let me actually, I missed this table. So let me just copy this in. Oh, that's not actually the data that we need. So that's fine. So we won't have our recurring transactions, but everything else we should have. And then I generated this prompt. Something that I immediately noticed about agent mode is we're able to create way longer prompts. If you had used Copilot in Excel before, you were limited to, I want to say it was 1,000 characters for your prompt. Maybe it was 2,000 at the absolute maximum, but this would be well over that. We're getting quite detailed with what we're wanting it to do. Because basically, I'm wanting to see that if I give it this prompt, and let me just go ahead and kick it off, if it will be able to generate something useful at least, and kind of understand what level it's able to generate information on. Again, these are just like pure outputs from QuickBooks Online. I've done no formatting of them whatsoever. Even in this QBO transactions, I have the duplicate row here. So in our previous version, we were using Power Query to transform all of these different tables and then combine them into a master uh, transaction by date by category that we then turned into the dashboard. So we'll see what agent mode does. Now, you probably have seen stuff about agent mode, but if you haven't, it is a new feature that was released very recently in Microsoft Excel. As I've already mentioned, currently it's only available in the web version of Excel, but it allows AI is using the Anthropic model in this case to take actions in your Excel workbook. Previously, if you wanted it to take an action, you would specify like add a column or create a pivot table or whatever you wanted it to do. And then anything that it wanted to add in or change about your workbook, it would have to give you a prompt where you could press a button or confirm in some way to actually make an edit or add something into the workbook. But now it's able to make those changes on its own as it goes through. So you can see it says reason for 75 seconds. But the first thing that it does is actually develop a plan for itself. So we can look through quickly these assumptions. I laid out a pretty good detail for it in our original prompt, but it's identified that the primary transaction source is this table. It knows that we are also giving it AR and AP details. Bank accounts are mentioned. I'm not going to go read exactly through this, but I'm just skimming through. These are some things that I specified in my prompt. So now that it has its plan, it's actually working through to walk through those individual steps. This might take a while because we're asking it to do a pretty complex thing. When I was building out this SAM dashboard, it took me a couple hours, both working on it and then consulting AI in how to do some formulas for this actual dashboard tab. If I go back to it, because this is flexible. If you're interested in this dashboard more, I do have a separate video about that where I explain it in more detail and what's actually happening and show that we can actually add and remove categories here. We can change the timeline of this dashboard, all kinds of things. So I won't go into those details, but definitely check out that other video if you're interested. This was just a thought basically that I had of, what would it look like to give the same task to this very new agent mode in Excel and see what it comes up with. So as we come back to the sheet, we can actually already see it's creating these tabs that we mentioned for it. The first one is the setup tab. And another thing you'll notice is in previous versions, any formatting that you wanted would have to be a separate request. So it definitely could format stuff, but you'd have to ask for it separately. Here, it's just implementing that as part of its process. A comparison that I've used before is if you use the advanced analysis mode in the previous version of Copilot in Excel, it's kind of similar to that because the advanced analysis mode was able to take multiple steps, but it limited itself to the sheet it was created in. And there was a really strong like bend towards using Python formulas to do analysis rather than kind of like building out more of a dashboard that you would be able to easily update with new data as it changed. So there's a lot of questions I have about what this new agent mode can do. I think so far I've been pretty impressed with it. Um, there are obviously some areas where it doesn't work the best, but also while we're waiting, I'll just show as it's reasoning, you can actually look through its activity. So these are all the different steps that it's broken it out into, and it shows this little icon and the one it's currently working on. On any of these steps, you can also click the step and it will show a little bit more detail of what it's doing if this title of the step is not giving you the information that you're looking for. But because I expect this to take a little bit longer, I'm going to go ahead and open up a new, show one of my other tests that I ran. So here we are. Sorry about that. I just had to open it up. So I created this sales table using AI and just gave it, just told it to do 2,000 transactions, give it a sales price discount and total sales, like a individual unit price discount and then total selling price. And then I asked the agent in Excel to do a gross margin analysis. Now, if you noticed, I didn't give any cost information in this situation. So I did ask it to do something that was impossible. And this is just something that I wanted to do to see how it would approach this, because obviously we don't want it to just generate another column here that would be like cost of goods sold. If we were using this in an actual like business environment or anywhere where we weren't using it exclusively for testing like we are here, we would want to make sure that it's not just generating information unless we explicitly ask it to. And so what it did to overcome that problem is it just said, I'm going to have a assumed cost rate based on the sales price. Now, this is just a really broad analysis, and obviously you would want to use your actual cost details, but it was pretty interesting because I asked it for specifically this one item. But what it created for me is a dynamic view where if I change this to 01, you'll see all of this information updates. And so what it's giving me is the description, category, number of orders, revenue, etc. here. And then this table here is actually a list of all the sales orders for that item. And then on this smaller table is them kind of broken out by year. Something that I've noticed so far with agent mode is if it generates a graph and you haven't been specific in what graph you would like generated, it's going to generate something that's not super useful. So like this graph is not really helpful visually because just the way that it's set up is hard to read. This table here with the overall details or the actual sales orders, or even this table here, all of those are giving me way better information than this graph. But I did want to show this is one of my first tests that I did. And again, if we go back to 38, it would change. If we wanted to just go to 39, we would be able to see that as well. So it's pretty cool that it did dynamic formulas, even though that wasn't something we asked it for. We asked it to do just a specific item. So that was something that I thought was pretty neat. And yeah, we're still working here. Yeah. So we're still in the reasoning process. As mentioned, I kind of expected this one to take a while. I've had them take up to 7 minutes so far, is I believe my longest time that I've had a reasoning go on, but it's always completed. I've never run into an issue where it stopped because it like timed out or anything like that. So that's something that I'll continue to experiment with. And if I run into any like hard limits, that would be definitely something worth noting. But unlike with agent mode in like ChatGPT, where it can go and browse the web, this is really limited to just working in this specific workbook. So it's less likely that it gets stuck or just like goes off in a completely different direction. You do have to give it an Excel based task. And because it is a AI that is doing the tasks, even though we're giving it a task that might take us multiple hours, it can complete it in significantly less time. So all of that to say, I'm at this point not super concerned about giving it a too long of a task that I have to break up. That was another limitation of Copilot in Excel when I used it is if I asked it to generate multiple columns that had different formulas that it was going to have to create, sometimes it would not give me all of those formulas or it wouldn't give me the correct formulas that I had asked for, or it would only give me like one column. It just wouldn't complete the whole task. It would do specific pieces, usually like the first one, maybe two columns. If it, especially if it was maybe a little bit more complicated formulas rather than just like a single Excel formula. So, for example, if I was putting in dates and I wanted to give month, quarter, year, end of month, all of those types of things, I could ask for that together because those are really simple formulas. But if I was wanting it to do lookups from other tables or anything along those lines, the best I ever got was two at a time. And so this is definitely a step up in that way. I think just in general is a huge step forward for Microsoft's AI tools. And I'm really positive looking forward about it. I was pretty bummed that it's only in the web version right now because I've just always used Excel desktop. And I think a lot of people that use Excel are in a similar boat of there's a lot more familiarity with the desktop version than the web version of Excel. It looks like it might be coming to the end. Uh, I hope that it's going to continue working. But something I will say is that it does have like verification steps. So we can see these verifying table and date information, and it will go through and do some final checks before it decides that it's complete. And I've had situations where it has had formula errors or formatting issues or like spill issues on formulas where it is able to self-diagnose and fix those issues without me having to be involved. And of course, because this is a video that I'm creating, I'm sitting here and just kind of watching it go through all of this entire process. But theoretically, I could be working on a different project in a different Excel. As you saw, we can switch to different Excel workbooks and look through those, and this will keep running in the background. We could open up the actual Excel app. I could be working on reviewing emails and responding to those. Anything else that I need to take care of, I could be doing while this is going as well. But since this is a video, I am showing it to go through the process as much as I can. However, I might cut out a bit of time at the end here, depending on how much longer it takes. I don't want this video to get too long of us just sitting and waiting. And I feel like I've covered a lot of the general information about Excel agent mode and kind of like what we're doing here, the differences between Copilot and agent mode. And so now we're just kind of waiting for it to wrap up. All right, we're back. And let me just do quick math. It took about 17 and a half minutes to go through and create this dashboard. And one of the issues that I kind of expected is we have data from the past. So all of this is showing zero. There's basically no activity in our time frame. But I will still walk through and see kind of what it gives us. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Let me do this the correct way. And so again, it goes through its assumptions on the right-hand side. We'll see what it tells us it did, and then we can walk through the file and see what edits we can make. So in our setup, We have assumptions and controls. We have the ability to set a start week, opening cash, DSO, DPO, growth percent, cut percent. We have our data. Looks like it's standardized transactions. Give us some new tables. Then we have a model, which is just looks like just a table. So let me just look through this real quick. This is something to note. Sometimes if it looks like it was originally going to create the table, a smaller table here. It's not the best at like starting over. It will just keep what it's already created and then build on top of it. So you get situations like this where now we have a new kind of like header column and maybe even just different information in this section of the table. So obviously like this would need some editing, but that seems to be the only time it did it. Yeah. Let me just go to the setup and say 6/1/25. This should, and let's see what we get. Let me just look. What is our starting date here? Oh, we should go 7/1 instead. Or 6:30. Sorry about that. There we go. Let's take a look at our cash dashboard. Now I will check our totals and our ending. I'm very suspicious of this because there should be no point where we have an ending balance of $53,000 in cash. But again, I think that is just an issue here with the, yeah, it's this information. I believe it's messing up. Let me actually see if I can have it correct that. There is an error in the 01 data tab where there is a customer table inside of our transaction table. Can you please review this sheet and correct this error so that our workbook is projecting the cash flow correctly? So I basically told it what the issue is. And again, let's see how it does in solving this. Remember, this is taking a while for it to do, but this took me multiple hours to create a similar thing. And if this dashboard had correct information, it's cool that it actually created a waterfall chart in Excel. Um, it also gives us like this line chart, gives us theoretically a top 5 categories. But it seems like it didn't populate, and then it inverses out by week. Some of these charts are actually pretty cool comparatively to what I've seen it do with charts in the past. Like I believe I showed this chart here, which is just not helpful. But these charts, assuming that we have good data, would actually be helpful visualizations to have if you're looking at a cash flow dashboard. So again, I'm gonna just stop talking, let this go, and I will cut to when it actually completes, and I will again do the calculation for how long it took to do this correction on its end. All right, that was pretty quick, just a little bit over 2 minutes. Okay, let's just jump to the data and see if it actually fixed it. It did not. The information I'm referring to starts specifically on row 39 of the data sheet and goes through row 59. I believe this is an area where you tried to create the customer table, but you put it too early in the sheet because the actual customer table starts at row, and let's just edit this to 310. All right, another relatively quick one, under 2 minutes here. And I did scroll through. It looks like it did remove out the data. So let's just skim through this briefly. Remove this. Deleted it. Started row 10. Formatting. Transactions table. As you can see, it gives you a lot of detail on what it actually did. So if you were to step away, this is just a formatting thing. So it's not the end of the world. But let me just go back to the dashboard. See if we refresh all our data. Do we get Okay, so obviously there's something else going on. This formula is broken and it didn't do uh, exactly what we wanted to. But I think if we had broken this up into smaller pieces and really been intentional about our steps, we probably could have got a pretty good result in a lot less time. And another thing to keep in mind is this is the first version that we're seeing. Like I'm testing this out less than a week after it was initially released. So we would very likely be able to see improvements and add-ons to this feature where in maybe another a few months down the line, I could give it this exact same prompt and it would be able to get me to the final result I'm looking for. But thank you for watching. Sorry this video was a little bit all over the place. I just kind of wanted to show a little bit of my thought process and what I do when I'm testing out these AI features in tools that I use regularly, and how I think through ways that they could be helpful in saving me time and just providing a clearer picture of what's going on. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more of this, definitely subscribe. If you have any questions that I didn't cover here, leave a comment. I will read and respond to every comment. And again, thank you. Goodbye.